And we're live. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Computer America. If you got in here way early somehow, but yeah, the show's going to start in about 20 seconds, and hopefully, all of you are catching this weird as all weird Apple keynote. I don't know what exactly is happening. Looks like some kind of green screen technology, what have you, but it's gotten
Your
weird,
show will go live in five
and we're going to talk
seconds.
about it.
Four,
So stay tuned.
three, two, one.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It is the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast, and I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Yes, yet another day. And, just to give everyone a heads up, if you were just here for Craig's sultry voice, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a little bit before we have that back on the show. And it's just going to be me, but I promise we are booking guests double time. We are, getting new sponsors behind the scenes and new contests set up all the time. We are working through social media. We're going to get some stuff switched over to YouTube Live hopefully next week. Things are happening behind the show to really improve it. I'm not going to say that these things are happening because Craig can't stop me. I'm going to say that they're happening to hopefully uh, make the show better. And of course, I always welcome feedback, but just want to let you know that things are going strong here at Computer America. And of course, thanks for joining us. And yeah, so it's Wednesday, and if you have turned on any of the tech news sites, if you've turned on any television, you I'm sure know by now that the new iPhone 7 was released, and of course, here at Computer America, we're going to be talking about exactly that. Everything about iPhone 7, what they've been talking about, what's important, what's not so important. Because if you've been watching the keynote strictly, then everything they've announced is the greatest thing to ever happen to human history in the world ever. But of course, putting it into context slash perspective is something that I think we pride ourselves here on Computer America. And we're not going to say that it's the best thing ever, but from watching the keynote, they've certainly put a lot of effort into this one. And a lot of people were thinking that Apple had kind of lost its touch. And it, as for innovation, I'm not saying that they've perfected mind reading, but they've definitely improved the iPhone 7 than a lot of other iPhones that we've seen. So today's show is going to talk a lot about that. Of course, because iPhone releases and anything Apple does new is definitely newsworthy. So to get some of the preamble out of the way, welcome into the Computer America show. Head on over to computeramerica.com. It will have links. It will have the audio feed, the video feed. We have the live show lounge if you want to watch the video live. Currently, I'm not on there, but hopefully soon I will be. And yeah, you can find all the links pointing outwards to where you can listen to Computer America. And of course, you can find links to our social media pages on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, blah blah blah. You go there, like us, and you can be entered to win fabulous prizes. Um, let's see, anything else? Today's guest is of course Mike Cermak. He's going to be joining us all for the first hour. Second hour, computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. And we had some other things that Craig usually mentions. They have completely slipped my mind. So again, just go to computeramerica.com, and I promise all the information that you need about the show. We try to make it real easy to find. Should be right there. Um, and I think that is just about it. And we should just bring Mike Cermak on with us. He is the owner and operator of techguy.org. He is a perennial correspondent here on Computer America. And yeah, he's been here a long time, very, very insightful. And we really appreciate all the hours he takes out of his day to join us. And folks, it's not just deja vu. He was just here about 10 days ago, but it's the first Wednesday of the month. And it's his regular time slot. So it's good to have some regularity. Welcome back onto the show, Mike.
You can't get rid of me. I was standing outside the door that whole 10 days just waiting to come back and talk to you again.
I was at Home Depot and they have the whole home bug spray, and then they have the whole home bug
Nope.
spray with mic defense, and I was like,
Nope.
I'm not gonna do the $15, but maybe I should have. Maybe I should.
Can't get rid of me that easily.
No, we cannot, and nor do we want to, because Mike, again, as owner and operator of TechGuide.org, and his during his day job, he does tech support, and does a lot of tech setup for businesses and whatnot. Very, very knowledgeable in everything that can go wrong with the computer, and certainly how to fix it. So if you have any kind of questions or comments, go on to computeramerica.com, and the drop down underneath the live stream, you can submit a question, and if you submit a question, we'll read it on the air. And Mike, could give you probably some of the best tech advice that you can get almost anywhere, and definitely on a live radio show. So
Absolutely.
feel free to do that. But barring any kind of catastrophe with your guys' technology, today we are mainly going to, of course, be focusing on the iPhone 7, because we've done the rumor mill for the past 6 months or so about what the iPhone 7
Is
was.
that all? Just 6 months?
Well, I mean, the previous 6 months we spent talking about how awful or good the iPhone 6s Plus was. So instead, we're chomping on the bit for something new, and they delivered something new. I mean, I think the keynote is actually still going live right now. I think it switched over to like a Beats headphone kind of ad kind of deal, but they front loaded it with I think the Apple Watch started the whole thing, and then they moved over to the iPhone 7. And yeah, you mentioned before the show that you were a little busy, you couldn't catch the whole thing, but thankfully, thanks to the world of internet and connectivity and immediate journalism, not just I have to read the paper tomorrow to see what it was today. There are like, I'm seeing articles, like I watched the live stream, and then they have articles that were already posted about what I just saw on the live stream that were
Yep.
posted like 3 minutes ago. So
Well, and it's matching almost entirely the rumors that we've been talking about for the last several months. I mean, it's exactly what we expected in almost every way. In fact, I can't think of a way in which it's not.
Yeah, of course, let's see, the color schemes are still the same, and the builds are pretty much the same.
Well, the
And
color schemes are still the same, except they have the new black, right? Isn't there
the
a
hi-
new shade
yeah,
of black?
yeah, there's new high gloss black, I think is the
Yeah.
name. And that was one of their big announcements, because they're like, a seamless integration between the glass that's on the front and a high gloss on the back, and they're hoping to make it, a little bit more professional looking. So
Yeah, I know some people who like the high gloss on, other devices, but it's just so riddled with fingerprints. It's never been a big thing for me. I would probably choose one of the older colors, the regular black or silver or something, but
that was my immediate thought, was like, when I saw the high gloss black, I was like, oh, perfect. I already have to buy a screen protector whenever I buy a new phone. Now I'm gonna have to buy a back protector.
correct. Yep,
And
exactly.
yeah, but I mean, like, they went through their manufacturing process, and they made it seem like it was going to be a bit more rugged than just a high gloss that if you set it down on a rough surface, it's going to be ruined. And they made it
Right.
sound like it's going to be a little bit tougher than that.
Well, and I think it's made of the same or similar materials as the front screen, right? The Gorilla Glass that, it's
Uh,
certainly not impossible to scratch the front of the screen, but not
right.
as,
It
not as easy as with normal glass.
I don't believe, though, it's not glass at all. They said it was still the aluminum, and then they and like, I swear, I said, they said they polished it with magnets.
Hmm.
That's what I was
Because
talking
how
about.
else would you polish a new fancy phone? But with
Right,
magnets.
right, and they said that it's still the
Magnets really are the best solution for any problem.
well, you don't know how they work, so they're
They're magic.
they're futuristic, yeah. And no, but it's that was how they got the polish, was that, like, they polished it with magnets, they ground it, and like, it's still aluminum on the back, even with the high gloss, and then they send it through some kind of process to further refine the gloss. So it's not glass on back. It's just made to look
That's
like
good.
glass.
Yep, you're right. I stand corrected. I was thinking of there was another phone not too long ago, but I'm pretty old. I want to say it was one of the Nexus, one of the Google Nexus devices
The
that
edge?
had glass on the front and the back.
Oh, glass on
Not the Edge. It was older than that.
Yeah, and that's ringing a bell. Like it had like a little touch screen on the back where you could like give it inputs.
Well, yeah, there was one of those. The one I'm thinking of was even before that. There was no screen on the back. It was just strictly to make it look pretty. And it reminds me very much of what the iPhone 7 looks like with this jet black finish, except it actually was glass on the back, which meant literally there were people who would put a screen protector on both sides of it. So certainly this was a better solution, assuming that this jet black finish is going to be strong enough to withhold, your average day use, which I suspect it will be. I don't have any reason to believe it won't.
Right. Yeah. And Apple very rarely makes oversights like that. But like, don't get me wrong, with things like the iPhone 4 antenna that was blocked by your hand, and
Right.
that like they've messed up before,
Sure.
but
They're not perfect.
yeah, but I'm hoping that they at least stress tested, through daily use.
I'm
That
sure that they have. Yeah, I don't have a great deal of concern with that. I'm sure it's, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't have any reason to believe the new Jet Black is going to be any more easily to scratch than the other ones. In fact, it may be harder to scratch than the matte finishes.
Right. And one thing that really stuck with me every time I watched them introduce a new feature, like they were talking about, and we're gonna hit a lot of these, the like the Force Touch Home button. That we're gonna talk about, kind of the how speedy it is, the colors on the screen, all the things that they revolutionized with the phone, which give or take, whatever they say, but you can't really get a lot of it from a keynote. I noticed that they're saying that, well, our projector doesn't project the amount of colors that the phone does, so it's not going to look right. Like it seems like a lot of it was you're going to want to walk into an Apple store and
Sure.
fiddle with
Well,
what.
I remember when they first came out with the Retina screens on these Apple devices, and now these things are even, just ridiculous pixels per inch. What are they, like 600 pixels per inch?
They're up there.
And it's just, it's insane. And I remember when Retina, screens first came out, it was the same thing. You could see these things, advertised and displayed, but to actually see them in person, I'm wrong. It's 400 pixels per inch on the new 7P, but still, that's a heck of a lot. 400 pixels per inch. That's
Yeah.
insane. And I remember the first time I saw at CES one of the Retina devices. Apple wasn't there, but someone was there who had one,
Mhm.
and it was just crazy to see that resolution on that small of a device.
It killed me when it first came, or at least when Apple came out with it. It wasn't another company, but when Apple first came out with it, Craig was over the moon. He's like, Retina display, it's the maximum allowed that your eyeball can process. Like there is no getting better. And I love that, just very subtly and very quietly, we've blown completely past it.
Yeah, you should never say that. Never say it can never be better. It's
Right.
Well, and you look at this, and like, so the 7P has a resolution. It's 5.5 inches, diagonal, and it's a resolution of 1920 by 1080.
Yeah,
Yeah,
full
that's
HD.
the resolution of my, 40-inch TV at home, and it looks just fine to me. And this thing is down to 5.5 inches. I mean, it's just crazy.
They've definitely squeezed a lot into it, and when we start talking about what they've actually kind of, you mentioned that it was one of the more boring parts that you actually did see, which was the build of it. But when you actually see what they put into it, it's they've removed a couple things, and just get it out there for those of you waiting on the edge of your seats. Yes, they removed the headphone jack, but
Yes,
what they were
as
able
we
to
kind
put,
of anticipated.
yeah, definitely. But what they were able to put in, I don't want to say makes up for it, but they did have a feature that did make up for it. To be fair, I know I'm kind of jumping around a lot, but
Go ahead.
with every iPhone in the box comes a conversion cable, and I know it sucks that you have to have a conversion cable, but at least they include it with every single purchase, a
Yeah.
conversion cable from Lightning to 3.5 millimeter. So
How can you complain about that?
yeah, it
It's
eases the pain.
And I suspect part of it is to make it easier to get their new IP rating. They has the IP67 rating, so that it's dust and water sealed. They say splash resistant in all of their advertising I'm seeing on the website right now, which is a little different than the talk we heard that it's submersible to a meter for 30 minutes. It looks like the advertisement just shows more of water splashing on it than I haven't seen any picture of one being dunked. But either way, it's much more water resistant than previous iPhones have been. And I suspect part of the reason they got rid of the 3.5-inch jack is to help make it more water resistant. It's hard to have a 3.5-inch jack in there and make it completely water resistant. It's not impossible. I mean, there's other phones that are also water resistant and have a 3.5, not 3.5 inch. I'm sorry, 3.5 millimeter,
Right.
eighth inch jack in it. You know what I meant. Um, but so I suspect that was part of it. I don't think it. And Apple's always been known to be the first one to try and ditch old technology.
Yeah, and like Apple really made their point pretty forcefully when they showed the picture of, I guess one of the original uses of the 3.5 millimeter jack was for switchboards, in telephone companies, and how they'd kind of swap them and make connections that way when you still said operator. And they're like,
Hmm.
here's a picture of 100 years ago of the same technology that that people desperately want in their new supercomputer
Yeah,
phones. So
right.
yeah, they
Yeah.
really made it clear
Well,
that.
that's completely different though, because those operators used quarter-inch jacks, not eighth-inch
Oh,
jacks.
well, good.
Exactly the same pins, but they're half the size really of what the operators used.
A apples and
Which,
oranges, completely, a century later. I
yeah.
understand
Well,
now.
you're right. I mean, it was the 70s or 80s whenever Walkman became popular, and that's really when the eighth-inch jack, 3.5 millimeter jack became popular,
Right.
and it's been in every device since then. I mean, it's so it is time to move forward, and we have Bluetooth. What the thing that fascinated me about this is the the AirPods, the
Yeah.
new headphones that are going to be available. Doesn't come with it, but is going to be available for the new iPhone 7. That is just like the earbuds that come with iPhones, but are wireless. And what's fascinating to me is I haven't been able to find enough information about exactly what frequency it uses or what communication it
Oh,
uses. They say
uh,
I've read that it's a custom Bluetooth chip that they're using.
well, and I was only half listening to this because my dogs were doing something adorable, and I was like, shut up, Apple. But when I was half listening, so take this with a grain of salt. They said that they use something called the W1 chip, and it's a wireless. It's Apple's first wireless chip that they've made, kind of proprietary, and it excludes the need to pair. It excludes the need to, you know.
So how is that possible? How do you not pick up the iPhone next to you? And what frequency is it using? They don't have their own spectrum. Is it on the Bluetooth frequency and they're just using their own chip for it? I need more information.
Yeah, yeah, and again, they
I
didn't.
mean, there must be some pairing going on. Maybe it's not as cumbersome as it is with a Bluetooth device, which some of them are easier than others. But I mean, the device has to know which headphone to talk to.
Right, and I guess without pairing, then the pairing would happen on the manufacturing side, and that means that if you go out and buy a new pair of headphones, they will not work with your iPhone. That or
Yeah.
ship it into.
No, I can't believe that would be the case.
Um, but yeah, and again, it was W1. It was their own. They said proprietary kind of way. I assume that you are completely right that everything that they said that because again Tim Cook's exact words were a thing of the past. Pairing headphones was a thing of the past, and it can't really be a thing of the past because pairing headphones is kind of what made it possible to buy new headphones.
I mean, I guess in a sense, it just depends on how you connect. How do you pair them? Because it could be that you tap it against the phone and then they're paired. Like they could make it that simple. But I would still consider that pairing. But
Mhm.
I understand what they're saying.
Right, and of course we're gonna hear more about it, but also
Yeah, and the new earbuds are not available yet. They're going to be available at the end of next month. The iPhone itself is available now.
right.
So we're going to know a lot more about it once these AirPods are actually on the market. See what limitations they really do have. Their biggest thing that they're pushing on it is battery life. That you're supposed to be able to use them straight on for 5 hours, and they
It's not
come with a
bad.
little case that you can charge them in for and it'll run for 24 hours. And so the case that you carry them in will charge them, which is a pretty great idea.
And again, if you look at them, it looks like that there's like a little docking station. Like I don't know if you dock them and they do it that way, or if it's just wireless charging. But there's not really a place to put in again a 3.5 like there's not even a lightning connector on these things. Uh,
Right.
they
I
have some
think there's
kind
going to
of
be a lightning connector on the box you put them in. But I
Okay.
think you're right. I think they are wireless charging to them. I think you
Right.
drop them into the case and it's using wireless charging to go to them. That's my impression on it. Custom W1 wireless chip,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I just can't find more. I want more technical details on it because I'm a nerd like that.
Yeah, talking about the more technical details, and of course, barring exactly how they work, because the keynote doesn't tell you how it works. It tells you how excited
Right,
you should be and how you should feel about it. It's
right.
two completely different things. But one of the things that they really wanted to drive home was the fact that these things, I guess, were delivered from the year 2030, and they're super super futuristic and they're awesome. But the fact that when they were building them, they were able to introduce accelerometers inside these little headphones. So if you use them for exercising, if you use them for, whatever you may do when you're on the move, it's going to be able to feed all that information back into your iPhone. And
Well, and what's oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh no, and so I mentioned that Apple seems, between the Apple Watch and between, of course, now these headphones, it seems like every part of your Apple, regalia that you're going to have on you is going to feed into some kind of fitness tracking, health app. Like that's their new thing that makes sure everything Apple has works with that.
Well, and that makes sense. That's certainly the push these days with Fitbits and so on. Everyone seems to be interested in the health side of it and monitoring, and
Hmm.
that's the wave at the moment. I'm reading here that it says that popping AirPods in their case for 15 minutes yields more than 3 hours of uptime. Opening the case, opening the case top triggers a pairing operation that connects the iPhone, Apple Watch, and, thanks to iCloud syncing, other devices that are linked to a user's Apple account.
So iCloud has to be enabled to use these things.
So my impression of this is that whenever you buy your AirPods, that serial number of that device is added to your iCloud account, so that whenever you open the box that they're in, they know to connect to your iPhone,
And
or vice versa.
and my, I don't know if you use Apple products or anything like that, but have you, and assuming that you do you use iCloud?
Very little. I use it for backups, to be honest, but I really don't use it for much else. And part of that is just because I use PC so much. So I like Google Drive and some of the other things to be able to, and Dropbox and some other products to be able to synchronize between devices,
Right, yeah,
different different types of devices, not just because I don't live in just an Apple world.
and I don't believe anyone really does anymore, uh, despite what Apple would have you
Not that you can't use iCloud on Windows. I can hear some of the listeners saying you can download iCloud for Windows. Yes, but it's just not great. It
yeah.
doesn't work as well as, I mean, Google Drive and Dropbox and some of those work so well on different platforms. I mean, they're just, and you can't blame Apple for it. That's part of the walled garden thing, is that iCloud works really well if you're using Apple.
Oh, for sure. And I just can't, like, I have, the iPhone, I have Apple products and iTunes and all that good stuff. Well, I actually they stopped doing iTunes, but whatever. I just haven't been using iCloud. Again, I don't know if it's like a security thing, and the part of my brain says if you do iCloud, then they have access to all of your information. But it seems like holdouts like me, and if I'm going to upgrade, and I still have an iPhone 5S, so I'm probably going to upgrade. Like this is my time to shine. It seems like the holdouts from iCloud, you aren't going to be able to hold out anymore. Like iCloud is the only way you're going to be able to use the headphones, and I'm sure a lot of other features that they're going to.
Well, I suspect, and we don't know this for sure until we get our hands on the devices, but I suspect you'll still have the option as to how much data you want to share with iCloud. You won't have to have your files backed up to iCloud or share it into iCloud. I suspect that'll be an option. And you're right, they're slightly less secure by having them on there than having them just on your device. If you have pictures that are backed up into iCloud, you're slightly more likely to be hacked, or have someone try and figure out your password. And it's not so much a failure of Apple so much as a failure of how difficult of a password you pick.
Right.
but but yeah, that matter is true.
Right. Well, no one's going to want my picture, so I'm not I'm not worried about that. And
If you were a celebrity, then perhaps that would be different. But
I, oh,
I mean,
wow, ow,
I
Apple.
mean, a really attractive female celebrity, perhaps. I'll put it that way.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, yeah, I'll give you a pass on that one. And my finger was on the can button, but you're good. No, no. Okay, so yeah, the earbuds they're definitely
Because I think that's how a lot of that happened. Not, it was what, a year or so ago, whenever we had a lot of celebrity photos that were hacked from Apple accounts, and most of those, again, it's not so much a failure of Apple, but that people didn't have secure enough passwords either for their iCloud account or for their email account that was associated with that iCloud account. Because if you have a weak email password that someone can figure out, and then they can go to any other website and say, forgot my password, and have that sent to your email address. And
Mhm.
once they have access to your email account, you're done. I mean, it's just, I can forgot password for every website you've ever gone to and get into it then. So
Yeah.
you've got to, I mean, passwords are, I know we're talking about Apple today, but I'm off on a tangent. You got to have secure passwords. That's all I'll say.
No, and like the whole thing about the celebrity and the and, and all the vulnerability, like people really wanted to pin that on Apple and the lack of security, but they found out that at the end of the day, these celebrities were using the same password for their mobile video game password was also their email, was also their Apple,
Right.
their iCloud. Like,
You've got to use different, and password managers are great with that. I actually just had a meeting just before we went on air where I was talking about password managers, and
mhm,
there's a lot of them out there. LastPass, OnePass. I like Dashlane a lot, and there's several of them out there. Try them out. Most of them have free trials, and they're wonderful because then you can actually do what people like Ben and I recommend: is have different passwords for different websites, not just a slight variation of your usual password and the number 2, just completely different passwords for different websites, and they can be gibberish passwords because you don't have to remember them anymore, and it's just
mhm.
so much more secure to do it that way. I feel I'm a big believer in password managers, as long as you use a reliable one that's encrypted, and again, that's still going to be just as secure as the password you choose for your password manager. So use a difficult one, use a phrase, I mean, it's not password one to get into all your passwords. You've got to, but then at least you only have to remember one, and you can
Mhm.
change it periodically, and then you're so much more secure. And then if you have a problem like what Ben just described, where you have a website that has been, that has had a problem, and there's been plenty of those. We hear about it all the time, of different websites that
Oh, for sure.
have their databases dropped. And if you use the same password on this game that you played once as you use for your email, as you use for your iCloud, as you use for your PayPal, then they've got everything then.
For sure, yeah,
So
and they figure that's how it happened.
yeah.
It was one of those.
So anyhow, I don't blame Apple for that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely don't blame Apple for that. But let's see, I believe we were talking about the Apple AirPods.
So the AirPods, it sounds really cool. They say it's going to be better.
The price. Oh, 160
Yeah,
bucks. What are you gonna do?
160, yeah, $160 for AirPods. I don't know. It's expensive compared to normal Bluetooth, because you can get a set of Bluetooth headphones. Even I have a nice pair of Bluetooth pod type headphones. They're not completely wireless. They're wired to one another and then Bluetooth to my phone that I use at the gym. And I got them on Amazon for, I don't know, $40, and they're really nice. I've been very pleased with them. But so these are pretty expensive even for Apple.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's but 5 hours without having to charge them, that's pretty sweet.
And
It's not earth shattering for me, to be perfectly honest.
like,
But the other thing that is nice about these
yeah.
is that they have the tap. You can double tap on them to wake up Siri and be able to talk to them directly. It has microphones built into the AirPods. That's kind of cool.
Right, yeah, there is the ability to, well, I guess it's pretty common for Bluetooth headphones to have a microphone built in, but the Siri integration is definitely cool. And of course, the carrying case acts as a charger. So, you know,
Right.
it, they've definitely thought it out and it has some cool features. But still, if people are used to going out and buying a $30 pair of wired earbuds, then you're going to be in for a shock. And like, it's just going to be another thing. Although, I mean, it's Apple. If anyone was going to make you spend more for things you traditionally didn't spend much on, it was going to be Apple. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well, and people are certainly willing to pay a premium for the premium product, the best thing that's out there right now. And this seems to be it. So I'll be interested to see how well it works.
yeah, and I definitely just want to make it super crystal clear that if you have a $300 pair of Beats headphones that have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, just want to make it clear that they did do away with it, but they have in every single iPhone 7, they have the adapter from Lightning to 3.5 millimeter. So you have to carry that around and you have to keep track of an adapter. but it should ease the pain a little bit of having to, switch to something that is incompatible with your current headphone.
Well, and how difficult is it going to be to keep track of that adapter? You're probably just going to keep it attached to your headphones anyway.
That's true.
Most people probably have a pair of headphones that they usually use with their phone. So, I mean, if you don't, I'm sure you can buy an extra, adapter just so you don't even have to think about it.
That's true. That's true. And so yeah, and that was everything to do with the headphones and the earphones. Um, I guess we kind of glossed over really quick, and we went off on a tangent. But the water resistant and dust
Yeah,
not bad. Again, I didn't think they were going to do it because they had absolutely no mention of it anywhere coming up to this. But yeah, they at least got like I think up to the level of Samsung Galaxy S7.
right. Yeah, IP67 is not easy to reach for a device like this, so I'm impressed by that, and I've heard it said, although I don't see it on Apple's website, that it'll go 3 meters for 30. I mean, excuse me, 1 meter for 30 minutes.
Right.
Um, but and 1 meter is not that far, 3 feet of water. I mean, but that works if you drop it in the tub, or I wonder how many phones end up in the toilet every year.
It
But
but and real quick, music means we have to take a break. We'll be right back. Computer America.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons: accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons: accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
I'm Gary Kay at Tech 50 Plus for Computer America, and I'm having a senior moment. Self-driving taxis in Singapore. Uber bringing self-driving Volvos to Pittsburgh. Ford Motors announces plans for a fleet of self-driving cars without steering wheels or gas pedals to hit the road by 2021. Yes, the age of the self-driving car is upon us. The 50-plus generation has mixed feelings. Some think they have better judgment than a machine. Others are just technophobic. But many understand that as we age and lose our reflexes and our eyesight, the self-driving car may be the best way to retain our mobility and our independence. Self-driving cars will be here. Don't oppose it, embrace it. But they won't come overnight. And for those of us who still enjoy getting behind the wheel of a fun sports car, don't worry, you won't be an endangered species for years to come. And that's my senior moment. I'm Gary Kay at Tech 50 Plus for Computer America.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. Yeah, and by the way, that is a new segment that we're trying out. The background music is not set in stone. It's just something that we're trying. I kind of like it though. It's it grows on you after 2 days. So yeah, that was Gary Kay, and he is the chief content officer of Tech 50 Plus, a regular correspondent, and now he's doing a senior moment segment for us. So yeah, expect more of those in the week to come. But here on in this hour, we are talking to Mike Cermak, and
hey,
exactly there he is. And we're talking all about the iPhone 7, and of course, if we have time, the Apple Watch, which I believe kind of kicked the whole thing off. I didn't get to see the very beginning, but I understand that they released a new iteration of the Apple Watch, so we may
Right.
talk about that. But yeah, like I said, iPhone 7, the rumor mills were pretty good this time, and were able to really kind of sniff out just what Apple was going to release. I think that's, I don't know if it's just marketing, or if the video quality is really that much better, but they have a lot of improvements for the amount of colors that they were able to kind of show on the screen, and I guess better, of course, better processors and better memory and better, everything. That the videos that they showed during the keynote definitely looked really nice, and I guess they're really trying to hype up um, the mobile games kind of part of Apple of the iPhone, in that developers can build better looking games and better playing games. I believe, and Mike, I don't know if you know of the standard, but they said that in one game, their Wizard of Oz one, they're able to render 400 simultaneous CGI monkeys. And I don't know what the other phones are capable of in terms of monkey.
What a funny standard. Yeah, I've never heard of the CGI monkey standard.
Right, but yeah, and they were touting it and saying that you could have that many moving assets at once without
That's
locking
awesome,
down
though.
the system.
Yeah, it's very impressive. It's one of the fastest processors that are out there. For a mobile device, no doubt about it. I remember not that long ago, we used to have computer games that would have pre-rendered intros because the game itself was just you couldn't do that much live. You couldn't
Mhm.
render that 3D type of assets even on a desktop computer like this. And now we've got really impressive rendering on a mobile device. And this one is better than the previous ones. The A10 Fusion chip with it, and better motion coprocessor on it. So it should make playing games like Pokemon even better.
Yeah, and Pokemon Go, like even though they've lost so many of their users, I guess still the flavor of the month app, and they said that Pokemon Go is getting special treatment. Well, Pokemon Go is getting special treatment with the Apple Watch, and
Right.
something that we're going to be talking about on our Gamer Tuesday next time we have it with Josh Boykin. Mario from Nintendo is getting their own game for the iOS, which is a first for Nintendo to build an iOS game. Pretty exciting about that. Um,
That is.
yeah,
I'm sure
and
there's a lot of people who are pretty excited to hear that. That is great.
right, yeah, who doesn't want, your favorite Nintendo games, at least a version of them ported over to your iPhone? That's the dream. But yeah, so the screen, a good resolution, like you said, 1920 by 1080 on the larger iPhone 7 Plus.
Which is, I think, the same or very similar to what it was on previous ones. I think it is an increase in maybe contrast or colors on the new one. I can't remember exactly now, but
They
yeah, still excellent screens.
right, they have this thing called P3. Don't really know what it stands for, but P3, they said that it improves the color range of the red, green, blue
Right.
gamut. So,
So,
uh,
and how have we not talked about the camera yet? Or should I
because
say cameras?
yeah, because the cameras, they dedicated a good 20 minutes of the keynote to what you can do with the camera and how it looked and just what was new about the camera. The camera, I think, is going to be one of their big selling points for this phone. Like, it's not just, oh, your iPhone's a year old, then upgrade, or oh, if
Right.
you want a Game Boy, then get an iPhone. No, I think the camera, they put a lot of eggs in that basket, and they made a lot of
As they should, because cameras in mobile phones are really important these days. I mean, I'm a father. I've got like one kid and another on the way, and I talk to a lot of parents and see on Facebook, because parents only post pictures of their kids and nothing else, and most of those pictures are taken with iPhones. It's amazing how many photos or family portraits or family events or whatever are taken with mobile devices like this and not with cameras anymore. So it is really important, I think, to have a decent camera on your phone.
yeah,
You're
and
capturing moments forever that are not going to be captured with an actual camera.
yeah, and I think their point was that they want the consumer part of it. That they definitely want you taking a picture of your kids. They definitely want you on vacation to whip out your phone and not someone else's camera. But they also want to mention that they they really feel like they've captured a professional level of
Right.
photos in a smartphone. And
Yeah.
looking at some of the photos that they took, and of course all the tech that went behind it, it's some of the best damn photos I've seen.
Well, and one thing that's really impressive to me on this is the depth of field that they do. I mean, people who I've I'm kind of an amateur photographer and taken a couple classes with cameras and stuff, and I know how to do point and shoot. And but the depth of field is something that traditionally you get with decent lenses and a decent camera, a DSLR or something, where you get kind of that you're taking a picture of Ben standing in front of his computer, and the computer's out of focus in the background, but Ben's sharp.
Mhm.
That kind of that and some people never even notice that, but if you have two pictures side by side, one with that shallow depth of field where your foreground is sharp and your background is not, it really stands out. It makes your subject look better and stand out, and it just makes it look like a more professional photo. And it's not something we've been able to really do on mobile phones before, and that's something that the iPhone 7 has the capability of doing, which is kind of impressive.
Not only that, but they touted their new technology behind it, where the dual camera, and again, this is all possible because of the dual cameras that are introduced with the iPhone 7, is that they have software that will kind of auto detect. Like there they had kind of slices, and it will show that let's say there's two people in the foreground, and then like bushes and trees in the background. The dual cameras will kind of sense what's closer and what's not. Like it's not just a flat image to to your phone. It actually takes slices and knows, okay, well, everything up to slice number 13 is in the foreground and everything else is way further back. So and they have this not really a filter, but a new kind of feature where when you take pictures, it's going to automatically on the fly take a picture of whatever you want in focus. So, be it your kids, be it your car, be it, whatever you want in focus, and it will automatically kind of sharpen that, kind of do quick little edits to that, and then do a blur in the background, which in essence, kind of makes whatever you're taking a photo of really pop. And, for you, it lasted all of 25 milliseconds.
Yeah, right. And it does a lot in that period of time. And you're right. The biggest thing here is that it's got two cameras on it. Well, two forward-facing and one rear-face, or I should say two rear-facing, one forward-facing
Right.
cameras on it. At least on the Plus, on the iPhone 7, it's still just one and one, but on the Plus, it's one and two. And so the reason it's one and two is just like a lot of the other phones we've seen coming out in the last couple of months or last year, is you've got a wide-angle lens and a telephoto lens.
And one other feature about that I think a lot of camera people will really enjoy, and again, mainly in the iPhone 7 Plus, is that this one actually has optical stabilization, like where
Yes, I
the
was
camera,
excited about that.
yeah, for those of you who have shaky hands or you get that moment where it's like things are a little bit blurry, uh,
Yep.
this helps with that.
Well, and the problem is that is so exaggerated in dark settings. A lot of people may realize this and many don't, but if you're taking a picture at night or of the stars or of someone standing, Ben standing out on the roof in a beautiful day. Ben's in a lot of my pictures.
Yeah.
And your shutter has to stay open longer. Your picture has to be exposed longer in order to capture that in a darker scene. And we all shake. I mean, I don't care how steady you think you can hold that camera, it's going to be a lot sharper image with that optical stabilization in there, so that any little shake that happens, a lot of that's going to be absorbed by this stabilization.
Definitely,
It's really remarkable. It's amazing what they can fit into a camera that's built into your phone. I
yeah,
mean, it really is. I mean, it's much more than just the basic sensor that used to be there not too long ago. We have optical stabilization and focus and two lenses, and it's just crazy.
that's something though that I know in quite a few circles that I and again, like the only camera that really rivals the iPhone 7 is of course, the Galaxy S7. So I'm going to reference it quite a bit, but they had dual camera and they showed, how good the pictures could turn out in low light. Like when it comes to iPhone, there were certain circles that were really asking for improvements to the camera. And
Yeah.
the stabilization was one, the better low lighting pictures was
And it
one.
wasn't terrible to begin with.
No, but it wasn't, really super high quality, and people, I guess, really wanted to ditch their DSLRs or, whatever, and just have the iPhone for
Well, and
certain
it's the
situations.
convenience. Whenever you're out and that Kodak moment takes place, that I guess it's not a Kodak, that Apple moment takes place right then, and you you don't always have your DSLR right there and ready, and you always have your phone on you.
Right, and Apple really wants to make it so that you can whip out your iPhone 7 Plus, and really that is the camera that you're gonna be using in, not just day to day, but they're let's see, they had a quote here from an artist, from a photographer, but they're saying that it's going to be a tool in any professional's kit. Where I don't know how accurate that's going to be, but from the photos that we saw, and they even did a demonstration of live photos, which has been around before, but they're really trying to push the technology and really say that don't have to take that perfect one snapshot, but rather take a live photo, and somewhere in that 3 to 4 seconds is going to be your perfect shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they're really trying to push that. They're really trying to push that the iPhone 7 Plus. If you're into cameras, then you're gonna want an iPhone, and and that's okay. And and they also did some improvements with the rear, no, the forward facing camera with the camera being high definition, which it wasn't before in any of the previous iPhones, where it shoots in full HD for FaceTime. So, if you use the feature, hey, that's not bad. But yeah, and they said the resolution increased from 5 to 7, just minimal improvements on the on the forward-facing camera, but huge improvements on the plus rear-facing cameras.
Yeah, it's impressive. It really is. I mean, now is the optical stabilization for both the Plus and the 7, or is it just for the Plus?
And again, like throughout the keynote, like they were mainly only focusing on the plus. So I only saw
It is on both. I just looked it up.
Okay,
So it is. Both of them have 12 megapixel cameras, and of course the Plus has both wide angle and telephoto. The 7 Not Plus does not. It only has one camera in each direction, and the Not Plus has digital zoom of up to 5, and the Plus has optical zoom 2, and then digital up to 10. Just to give you an idea. But both of them have optical stabilization. Both of them have the new 6-element lens and the quad LED true tone flash, so that whenever it flashes, it doesn't make your skin look weird colors. It tries to keep the proper tone.
Yeah.
Everything else looks live photos with stabilization. Yeah, everything else is pretty much the same between both of them. But and the iPhone 7 here is one that I'm actually more excited about than I have been in a while in iPhone, because all of them are always hyped up about this is the best iPhone ever, and that everyone should, and they're all like a slight evolution of what you would kind of expect an iPhone to be. The camera upgrades here are something that has me a little bit excited, to be honest. I think it's a good move, and the water resistant. I mean, it's a good upgrade.
For sure. The water resistance alone, like I know that I've had phones ruined just by a little bit of water.
Of course, who hasn't? I mean, everyone. I was just talking to my sister-in-law the other day who had a new iPhone and dropped it, in a sink, and and it has some water damage already, and the thing was a couple weeks old. I mean,
It hurts.
It happens.
It hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. So I mean, just to have that little bit of even people are going to say, oh, it's only 1 meter of protection. It's like, well, but a sink, a toilet, a tub. A lot of times you're not dropping more than a meter. If you drop it in a swimming pool, if you're fast, you're still maybe okay, more so than you would be with another, with a previous iPhone.
Right.
But
it's not the point where you can take it into the shower, or you can take it when you're walking in the rain, or
right.
using those situations.
I mean, just that extra little bit of buffer, just for sinks and toilets. I hate to keep bringing up toilets, but I think a lot of phones end up in toilets.
It's the number one cause of dead phones is toilets.
I believe that. I think that by making this phone, Apple will now end up selling fewer phones because fewer people will have to replace them because of the water damage.
Apple.
It's going to reduce the stock. What was Apple thinking?
Yeah, but if the people didn't want it, then I'm sure they wouldn't have had to put it in. But it was a much asked for feature of the iPhone. And just real quick about the about a much asked for feature. Every time I bought an iPhone, it was a company phone, so of course I got the smallest memory available because the cheapest that there is. But and of course, now that I'm kind of bigger in the company, don't mean to brag, to my own horn here, but maybe I'm going to go for higher. But
no more 256 now, right?
Right, no more 16 gig for me.
Because it's not available anymore.
Right. At worst, I'm getting 32 gigs. So there.
It's interesting there's not a 64 option. I found that interesting because you would usually have that double, but we've got the 32 as the base, and then 128 and 256.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting to see that jump, and there's still $100 difference between them. So your 32, I'm looking at the iPhone 7, not Plus, is $649, 128 is $749, 256 is $849 before anything that your cell carrier will give you.
Right.
So that's That's yeah, it's interesting.
And it's not bad. It just kind of reflects the fact that memory is getting tighter packed and better.
Well, and I think we've talked about this before. It's such a joke about the memory because switching from 32 gigs to 128 gigs is not $100, and switching from 128 gigs to 256 is not $100. That's just how companies are able to make money, is by having a premium product that costs more than the lesser product.
Mhm.
Even though to Apple, the difference of this is going to be $3. I mean,
Yeah.
they need to have a premium product that they can make a higher percent on. That's just how business works. That's, people always complain to me about that. And it's like, yes, of course, that's true. I mean, you can buy a flash drive now with, whatever. So anyhow,
Yeah, right. Right.
it,
But I think a lot of people are still going to go, like, even though it's how Apple makes their money, but you still want that convenience of having, 256. You want that convenience of having all that extra memory, even though
and there are a lot of people who want the top of the line product no matter what, even if they're not going to touch more than 8 gig. There's a lot of people who want the biggest and best. Where's Craig? Isn't he one of the? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, he is. I think he's currently sporting the 128 on the iPhone 6s. I mean,
So today, right now, he's out there upgrading to the 256, trying to get his hands on it.
I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten today alone, yesterday, and then today alone. Yesterday was like, the iPhone 7 is about to be announced. Secure your trade-in value for your current gen phone, and then today it's like the iPhone 7 was announced. Hurry up and sell your old iPhone and upgrade to the new one. Like,
Uh-huh.
people are
Yep.
really playing on the fact that people are going to upgrade.
Sure. Well, and honestly, if you're one of those people who don't need to have the latest and greatest, if you're not like Craig, this is a great time to upgrade to a 5 or a 6, because there's going to be a lot of people like Ben who are going to be selling their 5s and 6, and there's going to be a market flooded with used ones now.
Mhm.
So the price is going to drop. Anytime a new one comes out like this, you can expect that. But it's a great time if you're willing to be a generation behind. I mean, you can save a lot of money.
Definitely, definitely, and of course, you always pay that premium for being cutting edge. You always pay that premium for being, the latest in technology. We saw this with, things like, with with graphics cards, where, yeah, sure, you can go out and spend, let's say, $600 on, the NVIDIA, 1080 X or whatever it is they're up to, or, what was just perfectly fine, a month ago, which was like the 980 Ti, or whatever the Nvidia one is. It's
Right.
like, the performance wise, you're getting not really comparable, but about 20% less power, but it costs like 40% of what the other one does. It's like 200 to 600. It's seriously a big jump down just because you're not the latest. it
Right.
it's with everything.
Yep.
And real quick, the you mentioned the A10, the quad core A10 Fusion chip, which is
Right.
the processor. Did you read anything about that? I didn't catch anything about that.
Not a lot. I mean, it's supposed to be, I think, twice as fast as the previous processor, and yet also be able to use less power. So I assume it's going to be far more efficient in terms of being able to determine, the whatever it is that's on the screen and that you're using right at this moment, how much processing power it needs at the moment to be much more efficient when you're browsing the web versus when you're playing Pokemon Go.
Right.
So again, I think it's one of those evolutionary things. I haven't heard that the battery life. I think I read the battery life is 12 to 15 hours, depending on how you're connected and what you're using
I don't
for
like those numbers.
standby.
Like, I hate when they say the average battery life is, because, like, when I use it,
It's
I mean, it's like
meaningless.
half of what the.
It's meaningless. Well, and it's always standby time, is what they give you, and that's not how we use our phones. So it's, it doesn't mean a lot. I think this is going to be another one of those evolutionary things, that it is supposed to be slightly better than what the previous one is, but I don't have the impression that this is a game changer on it.
No,
Just
no.
even though it's faster, it is less power, but that's almost what we expect. I mean, it's kind of a shame that that's the case, but it was the same thing we were discussing earlier with how they're building the outside of the case, and they went into a great deal of detail in the keynote about how they're constructing this thing and how well built it is, and it's almost what we expect. Of course, iPhones are well built. That's not really news. It's that's what we've come to expect from them. So.
Well, what I kind of expect to be news is, and after they finally hit the market, and after people, from certain websites I'm thinking of, get their hands on them, they have these websites called teardown websites, where they'll completely dismantle a device and
Sure.
see if they're able to be repaired, what they use inside of it. And this is a trend with higher end phones, is that they're actually getting, worse
Oh yeah.
repairability scores, because, like, and things like the iPhone, I like this is what I'm kind of worried about with the iPhone 7, is that because it's so seamless and skinnier, when things like that happen, you get less screws
Oh
and
yeah, you
sockets,
can't fix them, right?
and you get
There's no
more
way to.
fluid.
Well, and that's difficult, especially when we're talking about waterproofing. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to construct a phone in a particular way to have it waterproof, and it can't be easy to take apart, or there's a lot of seams that water will go into. And of course, everyone wants their phone to be lighter and smaller and thinner, and and all of those things mean that it's harder to take apart.
Right. So
And so that's the cost. That's the price you pay, which means it's more and more difficult when you crack that screen to have someone replace it without making some damage to the frame of your phone.
one of the sad trade-offs that what used to be a 30, 40, $50 kind of replacement for a screen turns into a $200 job.
Right. And part of that is the screen itself. I mean, we are talking about really high
Mhm.
resolution, nice screens, but a lot of it is that it's a pain to do on a lot of these devices.
Right. And
And to do it properly in such a way that the frame isn't damaged, and in this case to maintain that water seal.
oh yeah, for sure. And hopefully not use cheap knockoff parts which are everywhere online. And they're so tempting, but sometimes not best
You
for
can
us.
tell the difference in color, with a cheap enough screen. It's just not the same as the real thing.
Definitely. And let's see, some of the other features we didn't mention was with the exclusion of the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, they were able to put in stereo speakers for the first time.
Yeah, which is kind of exciting. I mean, iPhones have, I feel, always had a pretty subpar, speaker in them. Yeah,
That's
maybe.
that statement doesn't need I feel. They horrible speakers. I mean, like if you take an iPhone, set it down, play music, and walk 10 feet away, you can't hear it anymore. They have horrible speakers.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna go with you on this. I'll say they're horrible. I was trying to be nice, and
No.
but so I'm hopeful that not only are they stereo speakers, but I'm hopeful that they'll actually be able to get to a volume at which you can hear them 10 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah, and they kind of promised that, and they also promised that switch over to landscape, and the speaker that comes out of the ear hole and the speaker that comes out of the bottom, they're going to work in stereo, and it's going to provide a better they said cinematic experience, but I don't
Yeah.
know how many people
You know,
on their phone.
Yeah, I don't know how much that matters to me personally. If I'm sitting there watching a phone, if I'm going to be able to notice that left and right is actually true stereo when I'm holding it. I mean, the phone is only, 6 inches across anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like it's surround sound. So, but the thing that's most important here is hopefully, again, it means it's going to be better quality sound and higher volume sound than what we've seen in the past. The fact that they're stereo isn't that important to me, but I'm just hopeful that they are going to be
Yeah.
better speakers.
Yeah, just better speakers. And then the last feature that is springing to my mind is the home button has seen some better improvements where, of course, has everything that you know and love, and then now it has Force Touch built into the home button.
Yeah. Well, and we've kind of heard rumors on and off for a while that they're going to eliminate the home button. They didn't do it, which is what we expected and most recently, but it's almost like a step toward eliminating it,
Oh
that
yeah,
it's now not an actual button, for example. and and which may also go into the whole water, proofing part as well. The fewer moving things you have on it, the easier it is to waterproof it.
right. And the feature that makes it Force Touch, like they had like a little chip. They showed it in the phone. I do not recall like it's like it's not haptic. It's like aptic or something like that. Like it's like Apple haptic. But
Yeah,
it's
I
like
thought it was haptic.
yeah, yeah, but it's like this little chip in there that gives the whole phone haptic feedback,
Right.
and and of course, like you said, that's the next step to is to eliminate buttons, is to give haptic feedback no matter where you touch. But that little haptic unit that they installed in there, they mentioned can be used by any third-party developers. So you're going to start seeing apps that are going to have haptic feedback built into third-party apps. So expect that with the iPhone 7.
Right. Which will probably reduce your battery life even more.
Prob
Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to be upbeat.
Right. We're excited. We're cautiously excited about this because it was a good reveal. It was a good keynote, and they did
It
show off
was.
a lot of cool things.
And
Um,
again, this is the first time in a while I've been excited about a new version. So it is. It's a nice move.
no, they doubled down on what they were weak on, which I feel
Yeah.
were like camera, phone, or camera speakers, and and accessories like the earbuds, and they've slightly improved everything else. So
Yeah,
I,
I think that's right. I mean, I think they're keeping up with the competition. They're up again toward at the top of the mark on almost everything, but it's not like they went leaping
right.
beyond the competition. So All right. Well, it'd be interesting to see what continues to happen. They're moving in the right direction for sure.
And speaking of moving in the right direction, excited to see what they're going to do. Mike, I don't know if you know this, but we've talked the hour. I mean, you're supposed to get out of here in like a minute. What are you doing over there?
Yeah, so tech support guy, go over to techguy.org, get help for your computer, your iCloud, your Mac, your whatever. We do a lot of Windows stuff, but we also have a Mac area, and volunteers are there trying to help one another with computer problems. It's all free. It's all just a community of people trying to help one another with computer problems. And you can go to techguy.org or go to Computer America, and I think there's a link somewhere on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually nestled in there with our free software kind of deal, and because tech support guy or techguy.org is absolutely free, so it nestles right in there, and of course links on Computer America for today's show take you there as well. And Mike, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's been just 10 days, 9 days, whatever it was, but I think with the release of the iPhone 7, we had plenty of stuff to talk about, and really, it was a
I
lot.
enjoyed it. Absolutely. Well, I'll be standing right outside the door for, another 30 days or so, and I'll talk to you again then.
I assume you do not move from your webcam between shows, so
No.
that's good. All right, well, yep, and again, looking forward to seeing you next month, and again, first Wednesday of every month. Mike Cermak, thank you for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure. Have a good one, Ben.
You too. Have a good one. And for everyone else, stick around. More Computer America.
Broadcasting live. It's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into hour 2 of the Computer America Show, where we bring you everything tech related, new releases, such as the iPhone 7 that we just talked about all last hour, and everything that we do here. And again, welcome into the Computer America Show. In the first hour, we just had Mike Cermak. He just left. We miss him already. But yeah, we covered everything about the iPhone 7 release, and we covered most things about the iPhone 7 release. We did not get to really anything that was announced past 3 p.m. Eastern, and we didn't get to the Apple Watch. So hopefully we'll be able to squeeze some of those in this hour, because in hour 2 of today's show we have computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, where we will be covering everything from new releases to kind of legalese kind of stuff, and really anything that catches my fancy that I feel all of you should know about. And yeah, so if you are just joining us and you missed the first hour, please head on over to computeramerica.com and you'll find today's show, and you'll find links to it on Block Talk Radio. You'll find places such as YouTube. Uh, such as YouTube, where you will find today's show in its entirety. So if you missed the first hour, I think we did a really good job of breaking down what Apple had to say about the iPhone 7. And if you missed it, you can see today's show in its entirety, and we recommend you go back and check that out. And again, if you are just joining us, computeramerica.com is where everything you need to know about the show is in one place. So make it real easy for you. Now, like I said, in the second hour, we are doing computer technology news, and I think we should just jump right into that because we have so much stuff to cover when big things like this happen. So, without any further ado, let us move on to news. Always love that tone. Today's computer and technology news is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. Visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system. And again, that is slimwareutilities.com. Always remember that. So, we continue on here, and we covered everything Apple, and there may be a few more Apple. There may be a few more Apple stories that we're going to cover, but we promise to just do it for stuff that we have not covered yet. But let's start off with turns out PlayStation also had some big releases today. They had another convention, and what at least another kind of thing going on simultaneously as Apple's, and they released some upgrades to the PlayStation 4. Super exciting if you've been holding off and you've been holding on to the PlayStation 3, looking for something, to really entice you into the next gen of console. Well, maybe what PlayStation released has done that. And this is from Engadget and Mr. Richard Lawler, where Sony will upgrade all PlayStation 4s with HDR, high dynamic range. And expanded color and contrast aren't just for the PS4 Pro. So at today's announcement of two new PlayStation 4 consoles, and yes, we will get more into that. And by the way, it was called the Sony's Big PlayStation Event, where they announced all this. But yeah, turns out that Sony had news for existing owners as well. A firmware update will make every PlayStation 4 ready for HDR gaming. There weren't a lot of specs on what exactly your console will support, but of course we'll find that out when PlayStation makes that more available. And let's and because that article was kind of short on details, let's just keep with the PlayStation vibe for a little bit as we are going to talk about the PlayStation 4 and the next iteration of their console, because just like the Xbox One has the Xbox One S that just came out recently, PlayStation has just released the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's a 4K game console. Sony's 4K PlayStation 4 upgrade has been something of an open secret since E3. But today, the company officially unveiled its high-end game console. It's called the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it'll be available November 10th for $400. It boasts an upgraded CPU with a higher clock rate and a larger traditional hard drive. Comes in at 1 terabyte. And of course, it is designed specifically for ultra high definition TVs and PlayStation VR. And beyond saying that the Pro's GPU is twice as fast as the standard model, which is pretty good, PlayStation's Andrew House didn't give specifics on the Pro's upgrades, but says the upgrades have been a long time coming, saying that display technology offers so much potential if there is content to leverage what is now possible. With PlayStation 4, we're ready. We're pretty much maxing out what 1080p TVs can do with most games, hence the creation of the PlayStation 4 Pro. This is a console designed for the kind of 4K resolution and HDR that so-called conventional TVs simply can't display. So, what does a 4K PlayStation 4 game look like? And they have a couple examples of what 4K gaming is supposed to be, and they even use that with they show footage from Rise of the Tomb Raider and the upcoming Spider-Man game and Watch Dogs 2 to show how the upgraded console can give existing games a huge visual shot in the arm. And one demo showed mountaintop view of a city blown out on a typical TV, but lush with color on an HDR display powered by the PlayStation Pro. And a quick look at Days Gone with and without HDR feature revealed a scene with much wider color range and more realistic shadows. And I feel like if anyone out there has taken photos on their phone and has seen the HDR and the non-HDR kind of feature turned on and off, it's very in your face when you have them side by side, because the non-HDR photos, while again they're still going to look good, they're still high definition photos, but with high dynamic range turned on, you get colors that would otherwise kind of be muted or would blend into one another. And with HDR, you really get things like greens and reds to really pop out. And for a lot of video games, if you have like forests or cities or whatnot with a lot of greens and reds, that's where it's really going to shine. So it definitely has a strong place in video games where you really want that immersion and that those really scenic views to really pop out at you. And they're saying that, but of course, you don't need a 4K TV or an HDR TV to experience the benefits of PlayStation 4 Pro, where even on a standard HD television, games will look better on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Super sampling and advanced anti aliasing will take the jagged edge off of games that are pushing the standard hardware to its limits. And even at 1080p, games will feature better reflections and brighter colors, where older titles are all scheduled to receive high fidelity graphic patches in what they call forward compatibility. And some of those, by the way, have been, like Paragon, Shadow of Mordor, and Infamous First Light, which were released, I want to say about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. And they're going back and making sure that they get the full treatment that is now possible. Very, very cool. Let's see what else. So, yeah, so naturally, the PlayStation Pro will be a boon for consumers who buy into the PlayStation VR this October, where Sony says virtual reality games played on the new hardware could potentially look crisper and have even more detailed special effects, and of course, best of all, run at higher frame rates. And specifically, Sony says that Farpoint, Sony's upcoming VR shooter, will feature about twice as much detail on the PS4 Pro versus the standard. And of course, finally, Sony announced that 4K and HDR video content will be available on the upgraded console as well, specifically calling out a partnership with Netflix to develop a 4K streaming app for the PlayStation 4 Pro. So, if you were hoping that, jumping aboard early onto the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One or what have you was, the best thing in the world, and that you're going to have the same amount of kind of console cycle that you did with the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, then you guessed wrong, and I guessed wrong. Well, not that I feel anyone should be really ticked off about this or mad about this, but it just goes to show that technology is advancing to such a point that the idea that a console can stick around for 10 years and with almost the same hardware, other than a few minor updates here and there, like we saw with the Xbox 360 over the course of its life, you're not going to get the same life cycle out of it. It's just processors get too fast, the graphic cards that we are demanding, and the video games and what they're demanding of the hardware, they're advancing at such a rate, and especially with virtual reality and things like this that are really pushing the boundaries, you're just not going to have that much time to sit around and say, I have the best console, because what it's starting to look like, honestly, is these consoles are going to have about a 2 to 3 year shelf life, where they're going to be the top of the line, and then they're going to be the second best, and then 2 years later they're going to be the third best, and then after that, you know they're probably going to be outdated, to some effect. And I honestly think that's pretty normal when it comes to PC gaming. And PC gaming, you can have the highest of the highest, graphics cards, processor, what have you, but every single year, companies come out with either new architecture for their graphics cards, or they come out with, more cores for their high-end processors. Just something comes out where you don't have to upgrade right away, because you're still like if you were cutting edge one year, and you don't have to upgrade the very next year, and you can sit around on second best for a number of years. But after 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 years, you're going to start seeing you're going to start seeing technology really, video games that you can't play or things that you can't do on your system. And it's not the 10 years, but you saw it coming. You saw the incremental rise of the hardware, that's what you had and what was coming out. You saw the difference. And it's not something to be mad about. It's something that you obviously have to just say, well, I knew it was coming. And, the whole thing about the consoles was that you didn't really have to care. You just had to say, I have a console. Anything that comes out for the PlayStation, I can play, and it's going to look amazing on this console because it was optimized for this console. Those days, I think, are gone with the introduction. With the introduction of the PlayStation 4 Pro. You no longer have the peace of mind that if you buy into a console ecosystem, that you're going to have the best thing going forward. Instead, it's just going to be, you know I'm safe for a couple of years, and again, assuming that you have purchased the latest version, I'm safe for a couple of years, but in 2 years' time, I'm going to be second best. 3 or 4 years' time, I'm going to be third best. And then after 5, 6 years, you're just going to be outdated and you have to advance. And, like I said, that's common for PCs and it has not been common for consoles for a number of years. But, it turns out that Sony and Xbox, we're going to ignore Nintendo for a little while, but for the PlayStation and the Xbox, they yeah, that's what they're relying on. And they're relying on the hardware getting better and better, whether you like it or not. So yeah, and again, that's that the PlayStation 4 Pro, we're going to hear more about it, but that's what came out of PlayStation's big event today. Very exciting. And also, I just want to remind everyone that the PlayStation 4 Pro that we just talked about was going to hit, I want to say September 10th for $400. And then on September 15th, you have the PlayStation 4 Slim, which is kind of like the Xbox One S. And that hits shelves for about 300, which is comparable to the Xbox. So, yeah. And, that is that. All right. So, for our next story, we and here's actually a story that was just released about 10 minutes ago, and this is something that Mike Cermak and I talked about at the beginning of last hour, where the jet black iPhones, and this is the new high gloss finish for iPhones, on the backside. It's meant to look kind of like the Gorilla Glass on the front, but again, it's not touch sensitive and it's not anything like that on the back. It's just a highly, highly, highly polished, aluminum casing with some fancy painting going on. But Apple warns the new jet black iPhones are prone to scratches. And of course, they're saying that case makers are probably loving the shiny new iPhone. And this is again from Gadget, Mariella Moon. And of course, if you've always preferred shiny gadgets, then the iPhone 7 is right up your alley. With a word of warning, though, Apple admits that you might have to take extra care of it to keep it scratch free. In the new iPhone 7 page on the company's website, part of the fine print at the very bottom reads, quote, the high gloss finish of the jet black iPhone 7 is achieved through a precision 9-step polishing process. Its surface is equally as hard as other anodized Apple products. However, its shine may show fine microabrasions with use, and if you are concerned about this, we suggest that you use one of the many cases available to protect your iPhone. And with that said, other shiny iPhones are also prone to scratches, so it's not exactly surprising. You're probably better off considering the other, more matte options if you don't want to deal with scratches and fingerprints, and especially if you tend to keep your iPhone in your pocket with your keys, or anything else in your pockets, could lead to those micro abrasions. Uh, and of course, there are many, many. Like I think if there's one field where the iPhone hasn't really had a dip lately, it's the aftermarket. So screen protectors as well as iPhone protectors and iPhone cases. Apple never really had to put out an official one because there are such a wide variety of second party or third party um, cases. So if you really want the shiny new one, either get some kind of protector, which I have no doubt are coming. And, again, I bet you it's going to be some kind of clear film that you can put on the back of your phone. Or, of course, just get a new case. So, not a lot to that. Oh yeah, and one thing that we didn't cover about the whole Apple, the whole Apple shindig was that iOS and iOS 10 will be available to download September 13th. If you don't know, Apple is currently on iOS version 9.3 point something or other. It keeps updating because they find all these security flaws. But in some countries, Tuesday the 13th is the unlucky date where coincidentally that's the date that you'll be able to upgrade your iPhone or iPad to iOS 10. And version 10 of the iOS has been rattling around since Apple's developer conference in June, and we've had a pretty good look at most of the new features. But now they're finally ready for prime time. And as a brief refresher, iOS 10 brings a slew of new tricks, which of course, which could add to your iPhone experience. And first up are all those stock iOS apps you never ever wanted. You will be able to remove those, thankfully, because I have so many of them that I don't use. I put them in a folder and I just hid them away. And yeah, so Siri gets a bit of an overhaul too, where you'll finally put a brand new voice control inside third party apps, which will make calling an Uber or Lyft as simple as asking for one. And there are also improvements to the way that the iPhone stores images, a revamped music app, and the real update we're all excited about, which is an improved emoji in messages. How whichever of the above tickles your fancy, you'll want to get up early on the day it hits servers where normally downloads go without a hitch. But you want to make sure that you figured out all the new goodies, like the invisible ink feature, early enough to avoid sounding like an idiot when you're using them. And of course, pretty good advice there. If you are worried about it, you can of course force the update up to your iPhone. And again, September 13th is when that update goes out. Keep an eye out for it because iOS 9, I'll be honest, it's not bad, but there's so many security flaws every single time. Like there was a security flaw I think about 2 weeks ago that made it so every single iOS on like version 9.3.3, I believe, was vulnerable to having like if you download the wrong app, it gave too many permissions and essentially let someone completely take over your phone. And those are just some of the cool features that were out with the iPhone 9, 9 iOS 9. Okay, so with that being said, I think we're going to, I'm really excited to see some of the, some of the cool features that were about the Apple Watch 2. And I actually have an article right here, and this is from a publication called, let's hope that this doesn't start up. Uh, but yeah, so this is from a publication called the Apple. I'm sorry, in a publication called CNET. Hopefully, you've all have heard of it. But Apple Watch Series 2 announced for 369. Again, that's $369. It includes GPS, better waterproofing, and an improved display. And again, that's 370 bucks. And Apple Watch 2 is official and it's waterproof. Again, want to make that clear. They said waterproof and not water resistant like their phones. Where the second generation model, which is officially called the Apple Watch 2 series, adds a faster dual core processor, improved graphics, and GPS, which can be used to measure pace, distance, and speed when running and biking. But the highlight feature will be added waterproofing, where the new model is waterproof up to 164 feet. I mean, if you're a world class diver, probably not for you, but 164 feet, not bad. And of course, can be worn while showering and even swimming. Very cool. The faster processor and the Watch OS 3 software, which arrives on older Apple Watches September 13th, again, just like the iOS 10, should improve app performance and navigating through the interface. The display on the new watch has also been updated with now 2 times brighter than the original Apple Watch. In fact, Apple said that is the brightest display Apple has ever shipped. Probably a good thing because I've seen an Apple Watch, and if you're out in the daylight, I mean, it's not unreadable, but it's definitely not comfortable. So it's good to hear that they've really improved on that feature. And of course, despite some rumors, Apple has decided not to include a cellular functionality. That means that you must still pair with an iPhone to use the majority of the watch's features. And this is, of course, different than the Samsung Gear S3, which includes LTE and can be used independently of your smartphone. And oddly enough, Apple chose not to discuss battery life, which was an area of frequent criticism in the original model. And the inclusion of GPS will affect battery, and it remains unclear how long the watch will last between charges, where the original Apple Watch lasted about a day and a half. And I don't want to say I'm getting more mature. I don't want to say that I'm more responsible, but there was a day back, not too long ago that I thought devices should last longer than a day. Where devices were meant to, kind of be so, kind of use them and forget them, that they should be able to last, 2, 3, 4, 5 days between charges. But now I've kind of gotten myself into a routine where I charge my devices on a daily basis. That if something ran for a full day and a half, don't get me wrong, it would suck if I for some reason forgot it, one afternoon or one night before I went to bed to charge it. But the fact that it can last through an entire day and hopefully an entire day through usage, I would be completely comfortable with that. Like if it just lasted 24 hours, I would be comfortable with that. Like I'm still not happy with my iPhone because that only lasts a total of, I'd say, about 6 hours through through the kind of use I put it through, which includes web browsing, video, and taking pictures and things like that. um yeah, it only lasts about 6 hours, and that's, I feel, is still too little. But the Apple Watch, it obviously doesn't have as much to run as an iPhone, and if it really does fulfill that, if it really can get that day and a half, I think people are going to be pretty comfortable with that. um yeah, so they said there will also be an Apple Watch Nike Plus edition that is designed for runners. It features a silicon strap with aluminum case and built-in Nike running features. Obviously, if you're an athlete or if you're really into fitness apps, that may be the one for you. And the original Apple Watch is gone, but Apple did announce that the Apple Watch Series 1, where is essentially the original Apple Watch, but with a faster processor from the Series 2 model. Apple has said that the new processor should make the Series 1 up to 50% faster than the original model, and the Apple Watch Series 1 will be available for $269. So if you have one of the originals, hey, keep a hold of it, keep it safe. It may be a collector's edition someday, because it turns out that you can no longer buy it. The guts of it will just be getting better, and like I said, it will essentially be the same device, just faster all around. But hey, you never know what's going to be desirable in the coming years. So hmm, who knows? And here is one other article that we slightly touched on, but did not get to, and the fact that Nintendo is coming over to the dark side, where Super Mario is coming to the iPhone at last. And after years of beating around the mobile bush, Nintendo's flagship franchise is coming to the iOS, where the new game is called Super Mario Run, and it's coming this December. Super exciting. Well, and it's happening. Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto, hopefully I said that right, just showed off Super Mario Run, which is an official Nintendo game coming to the iPhone and iPad this December. And Miyamoto declares now Mario is running toward his next goal, the iPhone. And how could Mario possibly work on a touchscreen? Saying that the longer you tap, the higher he jumps, and Mario runs all on his own. So the game isn't just a single player experience. They're saying that battle mode is will have you not only competing against your friends, but for the first time, players from all over the world. And of course, you'll be able to expand and customize your Mushroom Kingdom with coins you collect from the game. And when asking how much it will cost, saying that, quote, iOS users will be able to download and enjoy a portion of the Super Mario Run for free, and will be able to enjoy all the game content available in this release after paying a set purchase price. So yeah, they said, and again, just to kind of break that down, they're saying that enjoy a portion of the Super Mario Run for free. So there's obviously going to be, try the first couple levels, whenever you want, and and then going forward, you of course have the option of purchasing it for $3, $4, $2, $1, whatever it may be, and then you get everything going forward. No real kind of in-app purchases or in-app kind of pay to win kind of thing, because we saw this with Pokemon Go. While there's definitely a payment scheme, and admittedly there's more Niantic in there than there is Pokemon, but when Nintendo releases an application for a different platform that isn't a Nintendo platform, it makes huge news. And not only does it make huge news, I mean, Pokemon Go, even though it was such a, even though it was essentially a clone of another game, like they took the format and everything and just kind of uh, put it in with Pokemon, even though we had already seen the idea before, it became the number one biggest app in the world overnight. Like Pokemon Go, swept the world, not even the nation, but the world in just what you were able to do with the video game. So for Mario, which again, I think some would argue, not some would argue, but Mario definitely being one of their oldest and definitely their most popular franchise of all of Nintendo's IPs, for it to come to a platform that is, you know, excluding all the different Android, kind of individual pieces, the iOS store is the biggest and kind of most desired app store in the world. And for Nintendo to come into that with their biggest franchise, you have a perfect storm of what I'm sure is going to be perhaps the best selling app in the world for many, many months to come. And it's definitely going to break all kinds of records because you have pedigree from two different sides coming together, and it's just going to be amazing. Although it's not a full blown experience, it is still just a mobile app, but it's going to give people what they've been wanting, and that is Nintendo on their phone. People have been craving it. So the music means we have to take a break. We'll be right back with more Computer America and computer and technology news.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? That's so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Sorry, gender-neutral connectors just can't be AC/DC. Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time the Intermatic Dual-Tech Motion Sensor. It looks a little like a smoke alarm, but it really houses a PIR, that's passive infrared motion sensor, that can cover 1,600 square feet, plus an ultrasonic motion sensor that can cover 1,000 square feet, plus an ambient light sensor, and you have ways to adjust the sensitivity of all three. It's made for wiring into AC power and selectively powering a load like a light or a motor when either or both you choose of the motion sensor's triggers and when the ambient light level you set is appropriate. You can also set between 5 seconds and half an hour how long the load remains powered when it triggers. So bottom line, the Intermatic Dual-Tech Motion Sensor can bring automation to any room, battery-free. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Hello and welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 33 minutes past the hour as we continue on here doing computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. Sorry about that. And yeah, and if you're just joining us for any reason, computeramerica.com, it's where you're going to find everything to do with the show, including links for today that we've been talking about, as well as archives of the show in case you miss anything or want to listen to it again. You can find that in all the links pointing outward from computeramerica.com. And also, I just want to give a quick shout out and a quick thank you to our first hour guest, which was again Mike Cermak, owner and operator of TechGuy.org, where we talked, in the first hour about everything to do with the iPhone 7, and and I think he said it very, very well when he said that this is the first time in quite a few iterations of the iPhone where they had some exciting features. And when you look at the iPhone 7, or I'm sorry, the iPhone 6, 6S, when you look at the iPhone 5, 5S, and really even the 5, for a number of years, that's been just incremental upgrades, like short of like a Retina display or something like that. Um, there hasn't been really anything that's been exciting. It's all just been well, yeah, now it does this instead of that. Oh, that's kind of cool. And here with the iPhone 7, between the camera and the speakers and the better screen, and and a lot of things to do with the Force Touch, and of course Siri getting integration with third-party applications, there's a lot to be excited about with the iPhone 7. Uh, and going forward, we'll keep an eye on the reviews and keep an eye on just in general how it's performing in the market and if it's really worth your time. But the initial impression is, of course, looks pretty damn good. I'll be honest with you. So that was it. That was exciting to see today. But yeah, going forward here, we already talked about the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro, which again will have 4K support, and we also didn't mention that AMD has a new Polaris architecture for their graphics cards, and PlayStation will be sporting exactly that. Actually, let's get into that a little bit. Where, of course, this is a mid-generation PlayStation 4 upgrade, which again is dubbed Neo, have been circulating for almost a year now. And it looks like, and it turns out that inside the key to the PlayStation 4 Pro is an upgraded graphics processor, where Sony's Mark Cerny says that the PlayStation 4 Pro relies on AMD's new Polaris GPU architecture, though he also touted features far from beyond that. What that entails specifically, the author has no idea. Given the price to performance ratio of AMD's Polaris based RX 400 series graphics cards, we could at least see a decent boost in the PlayStation 4's power, where the original PlayStation 4 had the power equivalent of a mid range Radeon 7850. And of course, there were other features that had things like 4K and HDR support. So if you have compatible televisions, you will see a big performance increase. And if you have a traditional PlayStation 4 and not just a PlayStation 4 Pro, you will receive a firmware update that will again increase the fidelity of your games. Like you'll get, some added benefit just for having an original PlayStation 4. Those are again firmware updates and something that will be pushed out to you shortly. Very exciting. Yeah, and just kind of again browsing through the different stories here, we've talked a lot about a few of these, including Apple's new earpods and AirPods, things like that. But hmm, let's see. And I don't want to focus forever on just Apple and PlayStation, but to even move on to some topics beyond that. And let's see. Uh, I don't like that one. All right, so how about this one? Uh, this is uh, this has to do with Teslas and self-driving cars and things like that. And they're saying that it helped to expand the autonomous car debate, and something that we've talked about with many of our correspondents, and actually our first hour kind of blurb that we got from our Tech 50 Plus correspondent Gary K. Mentioned something to do with this, but this was very, very cool. And if you hadn't heard about it, this is, hey, one of the few things to come where a Tesla autopilot drove a man with a blood clot to the hospital, and of course, how that expanded the autonomous car debate. Where when a gentleman named Josh left his office in Springfield, Missouri, climbed into his Tesla Model X, and merged onto the highway to head home, he did what many drivers do. He switched on autopilot. And the gentleman who reportedly pays close attention to while driving autopilot, following Tesla's guideline for use, may have expected the advanced driving feature to kick in, braking if a vehicle crossed his path or alert him if a nearby car slid too close into his lane. But when Neely, I'm sorry, but when Neely began experiencing tightness in his chest, and after calling his wife, realized he needed to go to the hospital, he used autopilot in a way he probably never expected to rush him straight to the hospital. And the tightness in his chest turned out to be caused by a pulmonary embolism, and he is expected to make a full recovery, saying that I don't think I could have made. He doesn't think he could have made it without the autopilot. And of course, after the fatal accident in May 2016 that occurred between a Tesla driver and a tractor trailer, that again, the tractor trailer was like the same color as the sky. The autopilot feature didn't really, capture the truck and accelerated into the rear end of this thing. Yeah, so it kind of it like that part expanded. Well, should we trust these cars? And then you have arguments like this one where it drove a gentleman to the hospital. You get the same argument on the opposite side saying, well, it has the capability of making mistakes and ending lives, but it also has the capability of performing beyond the humans obviously, obviously compromise ability, and even save the driver in a safe way. But whether or not Tesla's autopilot failed, of course, during that investigation, his use of autopilot shows that the discussion about safety is more complicated and warrants greater nuance than the current debate reflects. And they're saying that it also could mean that people can get to the hospital faster using autopilot than first respondents. They have a quote here saying that I'm sure there are a number of situations where first responders can't really do much for a person, but rush them to a hospital and to get more advanced medical treatment. And that means that a person could have a driverless vehicle take them there without having to wait for a first responder. Because if you think about a first responder, unless they're out cruising the town, it's a round trip. They're at the hospital waiting to be dispatched, or wherever their location is. They're waiting to be dispatched, head out to you, and then you head to the hospital. But in a self-driving car future, it could be something completely, make a lot more sense, where you climb into your car, hit a button, and you just drive straight to the hospital. It could cut minutes off of those crucial, situations. And yeah, of course, the article finishes up by saying that in considering the safety of autopilot and other autonomous driving vehicles, it's critical to remember that autopilot is simply a tool. It does not have the inherent ability to kill or save a life, but if used well, it has the potential to assist a driver who needs help. And beyond simply braking, autopilot may have safety implications that we haven't even thought of yet. And of course, this opens up a whole can of worms. I think we've spent many an hour, many a show talking about self-driving cars. That's, you know, obviously, I think a lot of longtime listeners know where I stand on this. I cannot wait for the day when I take a 10, 12-hour car ride and never have to wake up. Like that is my dream. That is obviously not the world we live in currently, because we live in a world where the autopilot feature, you still need to be actively scanning the road. You still need to be using your best judgment in conjunction with all the feedback that you get from the computer. The computer is going to do its best not to drive you into a wall, but you're still going to have to compensate for where the autopilot and the self-driving function cuts itself short. And it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely farther than we were 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago, but it has another 10 years to develop, for sure. But I'm looking forward to the day when I can do that. And yeah, and again, I don't think it's too far gone. Or at least I don't think it's too far into the future where we have that capability. Um, all right, how about this one? And this one is about AT&T and how they are using a loophole to deny low-income internet discounts, where ironically it's refusing the service in neighborhoods with poor internet speeds. And this is from Engadget, and this is from Steve Dent, where AT&T is using a technicality to refuse its FCC mandated access from AT&T discount program to families who should qualify for it. According to the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, in an absurd twist, the loophole is that its broadband speeds in the affected areas are too slow. Hmm. I didn't. I definitely don't like the wording of that. When your speeds are too slow to be, given out for free, that's or at least for a discount. That's different. And as a condition for AT&T's merger with DirecTV, the Federal Communications Commission required that it offer $5 or $10 internet service to people on the SNAP Low Income Assistance Program, where if internet speeds were between 3 and 5 megabits per second, people would pay $5 per month or $10 per month for speeds between 5 to 10 megabytes per second. So if speeds are lower than 3, do they pay less than $5 per month or less? And not according to AT&T. When the NDIA asked the company to apply the program to neighborhoods with speeds of 1.5 megabits per second, it refused. AT&T is not prepared to expand the low-income offer to additional speed tiers beyond those established as a condition of the merger approval. And the company replied in a statement, and as a result, poor families that should qualify for a $5 program and must pay $30 per month and more after 12 months for a service that is well below the definition of broadband. And they even have some maps here of places like Cleveland that are in exactly those situations. And it's shocking. So the FCC's order states that where AT&T has deployed broadband service at top speeds below 5 megabits per second, the company shall offer wireline broadband internet at speeds of at least 3 megabits per second, where technically available, to qualifying households in the company's wireline footprint. I'm sorry, for no more than $5 per month. In effect, AT&T is saying that where technically available clause exempts it from providing low-income program in areas where it has failed to upgrade its service. What a convenient loophole. And AT&T told a publication that the vast majority of locations where we offer internet services are able to subscribe to internet speed tiers at 3 megabits per second or higher. And it added that 3 megabits per second cutoff was determined by the FCC. And however, the NDIA points out that 21% of subscribers in Detroit and Cleveland, mostly in low income areas and inner city neighborhoods, have 1.5 megabits or lower. And again, that was about 20% of those affected and would be affected by the reduced rates. Crazy. And while AT&T may be within its rights to do no more than the FCC requires, uh, you know, the organization behind this whole deal is disappointed by the decision, saying that, quote, AT&T's response is very unfortunate for tens of thousands of households in the company's 21 state service territory who may need affordable internet access the most, but who happen to live in places where AT&T has failed to upgrade its residential service and provide reasonable speeds. And I'll be honest, if you live in a major metropolitan area and you are, somehow only getting 1.5 megabits per second, like that's crazy, crazy slow. I was getting better than that in, you know, I don't know, like 2000, like 16 years ago. I was getting better than that. It's that's crazy, crazy slow speeds. So I hope AT&T comes around and seeing that, if you provide it for a certain tier and they obviously need it, and there's another tier even below that, even further below that, then instead of saying, well, we don't have to, realize that, hey, they probably need it even more, not less, just because they do not fall in that just because they do not fall within that range. Where, okay, well, there's that. Let us move on to a new publication here. And, again, there's lots and lots of news stories. We do this a lot, but, just kind of a quick a side note that going forward, we have two guests scheduled for tomorrow. And, this is an update from, like we just made this booking, I think this morning, where tomorrow, last week we were supposed to have a company on the show called WPS Office. They make a suite of office products that are optimized for mobile and are great for productivity on the go. Well, they have promised to be on the show here with us in the second hour tomorrow. And in the first hour, we have a company called Hello, which again makes telecommuting, kind of hardware and software. And yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna have a full schedule. We're gonna have two guests in 2 hours, and then on Friday we have our good friend and buddy Ralph Bond, who, as always, takes up 2 hours on his own. And again, he finds great articles that are mainly about 3D printing. He's with AutoCAD, and he does a lot of great things with uh, AutoCAD and all their software and design software and whatnot. Definitely tune in for that. But this will be the last time we do computer technology news this week. And even looking into next week, we have almost that entire week booked up as well. Who'd have thunk it? So maybe not. So maybe we won't be able to get to a lot of news stories in the coming days or even weeks. But we'll try to keep you, as informed as possible. All right. Let us. I because I'm feeling it and I'm feeling the video games, and we talked a bit about the PlayStation 4. How about this one? BioWare, and you may know BioWare. They make they are the game development studio behind the video game franchise Mass Effect. And BioWare teases new Mass Effect Andromeda details at the Sony PlayStation 4 event, where new footage from upcoming titles shows characters and a bit of on-foot gameplay. So the internet was abuzz with rumor speculation that prior to today's PlayStation 4 event, that BioWare might sneak in with some surprise information about the next game in the Mass Effect series, which again, Mass Effect Andromeda. And since formally announcing the game back at E3 2015, BioWare has played things very, very quiet. In spite of the few teasers since, there are few concrete details on the game's plot or the characters. And the rumors proved right, where BioWare general manager took the stage and showed a 3-minute video that included a bit of gameplay and a bit of exploration, in addition to announcing that the game will take advantage of the PlayStation Pro 4, PlayStation 4 Pro's 4K and HDR capabilities, and saying that, quote, "You'll be totally immersed in Andromeda, discovering all new alien worlds brought to life with sharper graphics and high dynamic range lighting. We're also able to create more lifelike characters, which which will continue to allow you to experience the best stories that you can play." And while we already know that the Mass Effect Andromeda takes place in the Helios cluster, a region of space that located in the distant Andromeda galaxy, where the game breaks off from the original Mass Effect series. And by the way, if you haven't played the original Mass Effect series, other than the ending, which I think was patched to better reflect kind of a better ending, but other than the ending, the Mass Effect series is often held to a high standard, as this is how you do massive RPGs. Mass Effect was very, very good with this, and and is still looked back on fondly. So to have another title in the Mass Effect series, many, many people are excited. And yeah, and they said that it features a whole new cast of humans and aliens. And based on other hints, they're saying that the humans and the new cast of characters appear to be part of a family with the surname Ryder, with the story centering around the young woman shown in the 2016 E3 trailer. And yeah, they even have a video that you can check out at the PlayStation 4 event, and they're saying that it features Ryder inside what appears to be an enormous, dimly lit, abandoned alien vault with tron-like lines and pulsing geometric shapes. So, alien architecture. What do you expect? Alien architecture. And so there's no combat shown in the demo. The rider does have at least one weapon hanging off his back, and a brief glimpse of gameplay we get is very Mass Effect is very much in the Mass Effect style of combat, and saying that the main character exchanges some brief banter during the exploration portion with his three companions. And then the video shifts to a cutscene showing the rider interacting with a control panel, and the panel summons a holographic region of the map. Blah blah blah. They're just showing that uh, they snuck in there, and what better way to excite an audience about the possibilities of video games, and what kind of video games that you can play than one of the most highly anticipated new franchises, or at least continuation of a good franchise like Mass Effect through PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. So that was definitely very, very good to see. And let's see, anything else, kind of going forward here. We have the fact that, hmm, we did a lot of these already. And again, today's news stories were completely dominated by iPhone 7 and iOS and all that good stuff. So, excuse me if it seems to be taking a little bit longer to, move from story to story. But all right, how about this one? Let's do, all right, how about this one? Google Fiber. We talked about them a little while ago. And Google Fiber wins faster access to utility poles over AT&T's objection. And we had last time we did the story, AT&T had the upper hand, saying that they were gloating that Google said it was a little bit harder to do what they wanted, and AT&T was kind of saying, "Told you so." But now Google is, I guess, wins its case, where and we're gonna have to wrap this one up pretty quickly. But Tennessee has voted to give Google Fiber faster access to utility poles, approving an ordinance opposed by AT&T and Comcast. AT&T has already said that it would likely sue the city if it implemented the new rule. So they have a quote here saying that the second reading vote does not guarantee the policy will pass on its third and final reading, but the second vote is generally considered the most critical in front of the Nashville Metro Council, where Google Fiber is available in parts of Nashville, but expansion has been slow in part because of how long it takes to access the utility poles. And when Google Fiber attaches wires to a utility pole, the other ISPs must first move their own wires to make the pole ready for new wires. And the Nashville and Electric Company, which owns most of the poles, must also review applications and inspect AT&T and Comcast line work before letting Google Fiber touch any of the poles. And AT&T also owns some of the poles itself. You can see how this situation can lead to, if you want to block Google from doing anything in your city, well, you can just kind of drag your feet and Google really can't do much. But they're saying that the One Touch Make Ready ordinance would let a single company, such as Google Fiber, make all of the necessary wire adjustments itself without having to wait for the incumbent providers to send construction crews. And Google Fiber applauded the vote last night, saying that improving the make ready construction process is key to unlocking the access to a faster internet for Nashville, and this ordinance will allow new entrants like Google Fiber to bring broadband to more people efficiently, safely, and quickly. But of course, there's a final vote for the Nashville Metro Council. Of course, isn't likely to end the matter, where AT&T will sue, and it has sued before in places like Louisville, Kentucky, and last month said that that if this ordinance went through, would result in similar litigation from AT&T. And of course, incumbent ISPs have a lot to gain from making sure Google never makes it into their market, because of course you get less competition means you get to kind of dictate your prices, and you don't really have to compete. When you don't have to compete, whatever service you are willing to provide is automatically the best service. It's just how it is. So yeah, Nashville, I hope you enjoy your new gigabit service, and hopefully you don't have to wait behind all the red tape to get it, because I got to be honest, I'm super jealous of any 1 gig service that anyone in the country is able to get. It's such a nice feeling. But all right, and and again, I think that's Computer and Technology News brought to you by Slimware Utilities. That is about all the time we have for today. And just want to give you guys a little hints of what we're doing here behind the scenes. We are still doing our Logitech giveaway. We are still doing the M535 Bluetooth mouse, and that's so hard to say. And yeah, I contacted Logitech and let them know that we were considering shaking things up a bit because
90 seconds.
I personally am not really a fan of the idea that you sign up for social media. Like we're Computer America. We're supposed to be engaging. We're supposed to be, kind of continuously entertaining you guys. We put on a new, different show every single day, and we hope to really engage you. And the idea that you sign up for social media and you press the button, you forget about it, and then hopefully sometime in the future, hopefully you win a prize. That's not what we're really into. So look
60 seconds.
so look out for potentially a shakeup in not only the prizes that we're going to give away from Logitech, but also the format in which we are going to give away those prizes. And yes, it's going to take some more effort on your part, but I think you're going to like it because it's going to give you more chances to win even better prizes. And beyond that, we have a great show tomorrow. Again, 2 different guests. We have WPS Office as well as Hello, the company, the hardware and software company. And then Friday, of course, Ralph Bond. Join us both shows as we finish out this short week. I will send Craig Crossman all of your best wishes, telling him to get better as soon as possible so he can come back on the show and save me from having to talk to myself. And until tomorrow, I hope all of you have a great day and hope to see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
And for everyone out there who is watching on the Google Hangouts, kind of thing, just want to let all of you know that if you're watching here, that means that starting on Monday, we may potentially having to do it on YouTube Live, which may be a different format. So keep an eye on that. We will, keep you abreast on anything that you need to know, and hopefully the transition to a new service doesn't affect you in too many ways. So with that said, I hope all of you have a great afternoon and see you here tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Goodbye.